In the past few years, Ripple's sale of XRP has been one of the most divisive issues surrounding the two. A lot of people think that Ripple is lowering the price of XRP by selling it. They think that this means the price of XRP will never be able to go up. That's exactly what I want to talk about in this movie. I'll also talk about some things you may not have heard before. You will think differently about Ripple's decision to sell XRP after reading these. You might even come to see that it's a good thing. As always, you love this station and help me a lot. Thank you to everyone who liked the movies and signed up for the channel. These two easy things help me a lot. Please let me know of a good place to buy XRP. You can find my best exchange up hold down in the video's description. That being said, let's start, and I hope you all enjoy what's coming up. So, over the years, one of the things I hear most often from both inside and outside the XRP community is talk about Ripple's decision to sell XRP. Some people think that Ripple's decision of XRP is keeping the price of XRP low. They say if Ripple doesn't stop doing this, the price of XRP will never go up. People have tried to argue against this by saying that Ripple's XRP supply should be burned. This would mean that only the XRP that is currently in circulation would be able to be traded freely in the future, and any XRP that Ripple holds that ends up on the open market would basically disappear, making the XRP you and I own twice as valuable. This is an interesting point in and of itself, but a lot of people don't see the bigger picture. For starters, the way markets work means that the price of XRP has already taken into account all of those new tokens. The market already knows about those tokens, and because of how markets work, that information is already built into the price of XRP. Basically, if the market knows that those tokens are on the way, it changes the price of the asset based on the knowledge that those tokens will finally show up. Even if all the XRP is burned, nothing will change because the market already knows there is supply. It's not like it's a mystery or an uncounted number. Okay, so we've now seen an example of this happening in the real world. Half of the XLM stock was burned by the Stellar Foundation. Since I just said that, guess what happened to the price of XLM? Not much at all. Aside from that, it made the price of XLM go down. You might be thinking, that doesn't make sense. They threw all of these away. There's not as many pieces now. The ticket should be worth more than its price. It did, however, completely catch the market off guard, and it didn't make a lot of sense because all that XLM value could have been used to make the network bigger. It could have been used to encourage people to do something. It could have been used to buy important assets, like Ripple is doing with Hidden Road and Motoko, which would have made the network stronger from an institutional point of view. Now, the Stellar Foundation can't do that as much because they killed all the value they had built up to encourage people to use the network underneath. The first big thing that many people don't think about is that XRP is like a war chest for Ripple in the long run. It lets them add more value to the XRP record network and encourages more people to join. But we need to talk about some much more important things now, and that's how people get their hands on the ticket. Some things, like Bitcoin, have a very interesting way of getting their money around. Basically, anyone can get Bitcoin as long as they pay for the hardware used for mining. This idea looked really good, right? For the reason that it gave everyone a fair chance to go get the token. But let's not say that right away. In the beginning of Bitcoin, people could get a lot of it, right? Miners could be set up because it was cheap and easy to do, and they weren't up against multi-billion-dollar companies. That's why everyone who knew about Bitcoin began mining it and collecting it. At first, this was great because lots of people got Bitcoin. Of course, the trouble is that a lot of people still don't use cryptocurrencies. We are still in the very, very early stages of building this whole new world of money. And I think almost all of the Bitcoin has already been given out, right? Only about 1 million Bitcoin are left to be mined. All the other Bitcoin have already been given out. But that's not good because most of the world's biggest and most important people are still not into crypto. Most of the big banks, businesses, and states are only just beginning to dip their toes in. Also, I think most of the Bitcoin has already been given out. When early tech entrepreneurs and computer experts learned about Bitcoin, they got their hands on all of the supply. This puts you in a strange situation. But there's no longer any room for the big banks to get a big piece of the network, right? There will always be minnows compared to guys like the one who found Bitcoin while living in his mom's basement and set up a GPU to mine a big chunk of the supply. Basically, they gave out too much too early. But what's really interesting about this subject is that this is the main reason Jed McCaleb left Ripple. He believed Ripple should have opened up as much XRP as possible to the public very early on, so that Ripple could get rid of as much XRP as possible as quickly as possible. He thought they should give it away on Facebook and send it to random people. At first, a lot of people really liked this idea, right? Get all of the XRP out there and then you can move on. However, we would have had the same problem that Bitcoin does now. All of a sudden, all of these big financial companies want to get into crypto, and they want to get involved in networks where they're a whale, right? They have a lot of shares. The people in charge won't want to deal with someone like me, who just found out about this stuff very recently. Since I want a Facebook offer, I can now change the price of XRP because I have so much of it. They have a big problem with that, right? It's important to them that they're one of the biggest gorillas in the room when they do something. People who want to join any network need to bear that in mind. It's always there for you and me. We want to hold a lot of XRP because that's the network we're interested in. No matter what network they join, they want to be big buyers. Bitcoin is already fully spread out, and something like XLM, right? The two of them did the same thing. There is no bank of coins. They can be given out because the XRP ledger thought it would be best to take its time giving out the tokens, right? Getting the idea that this coin thing will take a while right now. Things are still very early on. We don't have to hand out all of these tokens right away. We can wait until the big players are ready to join and make sure they have plenty of points to stay. Holders on the network who have meaning, these big banks can now buy large amounts of XRP without changing the price because they took this opposite view. That's right, you heard that right. Because these deals can happen over the counter, OTC, Ripple can get these tokens into the hands of financial institutions that want to hold them for a long time. This way, the financial institutions don't have to go to public markets or change the price, and they can buy billions of XRP without anyone knowing. It's likely that a lot of people are scared when they hear that. In other words, that means no one will ever buy XRP on the open market. Not at all, no. Just making sure that the spread can happen so that the people who will hold XRP for a long time can get their hands on it. Even so, the price is still changed because these tokens will never be sold on the open market again. If you lock up the supply, it will only go to people who need and want it in the long term, right? This keeps the supply from being locked up with me or someone else who might want to sell it all for $10.00. Instead, it keeps it locked up with people who will actually use the network for what it was made for. It's not likely that a group of financial institutions will speculate and say, okay, at this price, we're now going to dump this thing. They will all plan to use this new technology and the new liquidity it brings to the financial system. They will see it as a public good or utility. Isn't that the case with a lot of other projects as well? Especially since a big chunk of the core supply was given to traders who were just in it to make a dollar or buck in USD terms. The only goal is to sell it and make money. Ripple has made it possible to get XRP into the hands of important people and make sure that people who will need to hold a lot of XRP tokens in the future can get enough to be important.